What is happening, guys? Welcome back to Behind the Brew. I am your host, MMTV, and I'm here with my co-host, Steve Lockhart of Lockhart's Authentic. And today we are welcoming Alvin Uman, the founder of Oxford Hill. Alvin, welcome. How are you today?
I'm doing great. Excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm super excited as well. We were chatting a little bit before the pod. I think this is going to be a lot of fun. Steve and I are really glad to have you today. Steve, how are you?
I'm doing wonderful, man. I'm sitting here with a couple of Apple nerds, though, it seems like. So we're gonna get into that. I assume. I don't have all the fun Apple gadgets like you guys got, but it sounds like you guys have a good time with them.
Steve's
Got
a
ourselves a
recent
green bubble.
he's a recent Apple convert though, because Ron got you over to
Yeah,
the MacBook
yeah.
Pro. He got you onto the iPhone. You're kind of getting in there.
I'm slowly inching my way, and I just got another screen for my MacBook and all that stuff, and I'm starting to get it. I still prefer Windows with a kind of the navigation. I kind of prefer that still, but for everything else, I'm starting to enjoy it. So maybe I'll come over to the Apple side here eventually.
There's nothing like it. Nothing like Apple. Windows sucks.
It sure is expensive, that's for sure.
Anyway, well, we're welcoming Alvin to the show today to talk about Oxford Hill. This is a brand that I've reviewed. Have I only done one review for you guys, or maybe just one? I'm working on. I actually started coincidentally today was my filming day for your air dry paste.
Yeah.
Air dry cream, yeah. So I worked on that today a little bit, so that's going to be coming out soon. And why don't you start by just telling us a little bit about you and what you do at Oxford Hill? Maybe we can then go into the bio of how Oxford Hill started.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, as you mentioned, my name is Alvin. I am the founder of Oxford Hill. We are a men's grooming brand that focuses on just minimal formulations. I think that when you look at a lot of the products that are in the market today, they are either formulated with dozens and dozens of ingredients that are kind of just unnecessary, but they're cutting measures for lots of manufacturers, or it's just filled with so much water, and you're really just paying for branding and water. So what we decided to do was create formulations that were as concentrated as they could possibly be, and just really effective. And so it ended up becoming this accidental product that we created, and from there it grew. I don't know why I keep saying we, because I founded this in my basement, and dealing with a lot of business issues, which we'll probably get into at that time. But incredibly enough, I have an awesome team now that brews way better than I do. And so sometimes I'm running over there saying, yeah, how do we make this again in case you're ever sick for a week? And they're really great. So it's been an incredible journey. And I think the coolest thing about this is people sending us emails saying, I hope that this brand never stops producing product, because we're such a part of their daily ritual now. That's just incredible at the end of the day. Even if we only sell like one hair clay or product a month, it's worth it knowing that people are just happy that we exist. So
I love that. Love it. That's part of like what fuels Steve and I to do what we do. We're both the owners of Dauntless, and that's kind of like the ethos of our brand as well, based on from my brother that passed away. And I won't get into all of that, but that was kind of like his thing. Style is fearless. Your style is the way you communicate yourself to the world. And our grooming routines are part of our life. It's how we get ready for work. It's how we get ready for school. It's, you're getting ready to go out, meet a girl for the first time, or meet a special guy for the first time. You groom, you do your hair, put on that awesome shirt. I mean, people like to ask me all the time, why hair? Why this? And, I have a story about my brother that I tell. That's usually my why. But like the second part of my why is like, imagine the last time you stepped out of the house knowing you looked good. Yeah. Like you had the shirt, you had the hair done. Steve had his mustache all perfectly waxed and all good. Like, how did you feel when you stepped out of the house like that? Right? You felt like you could do anything. That's the why for me. I'm on this journey to give more people that experience, I think, because you look good, you perform good. That's just how it goes, right? And so how often do you guys get those messages where people are like, I have added you to my life, essentially?
we get that we'll definitely get it every single week. I think it's incredible, like when reviews come in either on our website or on Amazon, and then people are just explaining how, oh, they got this as a gift, or they were a little bit skeptical because they've tried dozens of other products, and then they just
Yeah,
when people to write a review, you've got to be really, really convicted about a product.
exactly.
Either you've got to hate it or you've got to absolutely love it, right?
Yes.
And
Yes.
that's the one thing that I've realized. I'm like, I remember like, before we launched Oxford Hill, I never ever wrote reviews. I never wrote it because, it's just a lot of effort and you're thinking, oh, they don't really care anyway. Now, like as the owner of a brand, when people actually take time to write paragraphs of like how something changed their lives, I'm like, man, it's a 5 ingredient hair clay. What do you mean that this is something that gave you a newfound confidence? There was one story that we got where like a man was running from his home, his flat in London to a job interview, and he was so nervous and he was scared because it was the first day that he used our product right when it came in. And as he's running through the streets of London, it starts raining and he's embarrassed now because he's about to walk into a job interview where his hair is damp, ruined by the rain. And then he's just so self-conscious about that the entire commute to the interview. And he just runs to the bathroom the moment he gets to the job interview and he looks at his hair and he's like, oh my goodness, it looks so much better. Like it looks fuller. Like the clay was incredible for the hair. And the rain didn't do anything to it, didn't do any damage. He actually wrote that on like as a review, and I think we used that and like used it as an ad. We just literally took a screenshot
But
of
you
it.
got to, you got
Yeah,
to.
that's like a
That's it,
perfect
man.
ad.
That's incredible. And did you get the job?
I don't know. He didn't say that part, but he's still a customer.
I think
Well,
I
hey,
think
if he's listening, reach out. I want to know.
I think we should
Yeah,
assume he did. Let's just go ahead and assume he got that job. I
I
think.
think he got that job for sure.
That's so
Yeah.
cool. Yeah.
To
I'm
your
sure you've
point,
gotten stories from people like, I wore this for my wedding and, I wore this on these special days. It's amazing knowing that we just doing what we do. And like you said, out of your basement, I used to be out of my kitchen and just getting that sort of story where it's just like, what you did, you were at my wedding, you were at the birth of my child or, all those different things like that. I was actually just hanging out in my kitchen. When this was all going down, I was probably just kicking back watching TV. But it's super cool. I love
yeah.
stories like that, man. That's so
And,
cool.
and I think that like so I love that I'm talking to founders that create something because there's one thing, I work with a lot of agencies. I love agencies. I think that they serve a purpose. But it's a different feeling when you talk to founders of people who like they created something. And so we just communicated the value that other people get from our products. The why for me has morphed into just the fact that we have the ability to take nothing and turn it into something. Like we get to create value out of thin air. We get to
Yeah.
create.
We're performing
And
alchemy. Yeah.
yes, that's what it
Yeah.
is. Every day I wake up, I don't really look at this the business model of trying to figure out, oh, what is like the best pathway for increasing our top line revenue. Now I'm just like, what do I feel like bringing to the earth? What do I feel like birthing? And let me trust my gut feeling. We've created products that sucked. We've created products that people loved, right? At the end of the day, just create it with the same ethos and value system with which you create your hero product and just see what happens. At the end of the day, like when you're like communicating with your customer base as regularly as we do and as you guys do, people love the effort. And they're just happy that you're thinking about trying to create innovation in a space that we're not SpaceX, right? But we still treat this category and industry as if we're taking it to Mars, right? So it's a good feeling.
It's a really good feeling. It's a good way to look at it too.
Well put. Yeah.
I have always appreciated your guys' attention to detail when it comes to like customer presentation. I get probably 10 products a week sent to me from brands, just a lot. And you'd be surprised how many brands, this is the reason why I talk about it so much on the channel. I've had people ask me like, why the hell are you so focused on product presentation? I was like, because a lot of brands don't do it. A lot of brands don't. And I'm trying to like, hopefully the more I hammer at home, like more brands will get the idea. Like you've got to make it somewhat presentable. You got to make your customer feel appreciated in the little ways as well as the big ways. So what I mean
Wow
by
me a little bit.
yeah, like you guys send it out in a really nice packaged with colorful packaging, not flimsy packaging or even boring packaging. It's nicely presented. Everything's clean, and it's just a nice. You get it. It's a nice. It puts nice thoughts into your head. Is what I'm saying. Like I always use Apple because I'm a big Apple fan, but like I ordered a Mac. Like my first MacBook ever was like 10 years ago, and I was so stoked to get it, and I get it. There's a little card that they put in the box, and it said, "This was made for you." And I was like, man, I love you guys at Apple. Like I don't know who it is that put this together, but I freaking love you. Like it was such a small, stupid little thing, but it meant something to me. I was like, man, whoever made this for me is now my best friend in the world. And I love it. So I took that with me when we started Dauntless. Like we put cards in there that thanked them. I had my kids write their names on it on the back so that they know that it comes from a family and not just a factory somewhere, and so I very much appreciate what you guys do. So you started Oxford Hill in your basement. Where did the name Oxford Hill come from? Is that a city or a place?
It was an ode to Oxford Avenue in London. I love London. I think it's one of my favorite cities in the
I've
world.
never been.
So, yeah, it's a beautiful place, and I think that there's like it's just a street, and I find it to be connected with luxury.
Mm.
All the premium stores are there, premium outlets are there, and so all premium retail is there. So I'm like, okay, it felt so elevated to me. And then Hill is like kind of like an ode to where I believe that like we're all called to be like cities on a hill, shining as bright as we can, and just being people that are adding value in every single pocket of society. So just kind of combining it together, it already gave like an elevated like sound to it. And that's the reason why I picked the name. And then I had an incredible designer. She works for the New York Times, and she's a designer for them. And she said, "Well, I think I can turn this into some pretty incredible, like a type font logo." And I was like, "Let's see it." And then once she did that, I was like, "Oh, this is pretty awesome." And so from there, I just started putting life into it. And so that's where Oxford Hill's name was born. But the product was actually created well before the name was even established.
That's how it should be. I mean, I've
Mhm.
seen brands over the years. I was like, man, I tried to calculate it the other day of how many products I've reviewed or tested, and it's in the 800s. I know
You can
it
just look
is.
behind you and see all those jars on your shelf, and that's after you condensed it too.
Yeah, that's after I condensed it. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I've tested, reviewed, made, or like consulted on probably 850 different products over the last 10 years. And
That's wild.
I've seen so many brands approach it the opposite way, where they have like a fantastic label and they're like, look how great this packaging is. And I'm like, yeah, that looks so freaking cool. And then you get it, and the juice in the jar is such a letdown.
Yeah.
Such a letdown. So I've always, when I'm sure Steve can talk about this too. You've had people approach you like, what should I do? I want to start a hair brand. Like, what should I do? I know my advice is always nail down your formula first, and then give your product a personality afterwards. Bring it to life after you bring it to life, technically.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's
Get the
good to
juice
hear.
in the jar, get the
Yeah.
juice in the jar right first, because customers, they'll buy a pretty label. They might buy a pretty label one time, but
Yeah.
they're not coming back if the product doesn't work. So
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
you got to focus on that. And I actually wanted to dive in a little bit on the ingredients that you guys use, because you've got more of the minimalist mentality where less is more. And we actually kind of come from not the opposite school of thought, but more of a more is more kind of vibe is with Lockhart's. And we don't use a whole bunch of ingredients, but we try to use a lot of clean ingredients that in combination ends up giving you a really nice performance. But I do see, and I know that me and Mike have actually ragged on products before that claim 3 ingredients or whatever, and it's better just because of that. And I haven't used your products yet, but Mike has actually said that yours perform quite nicely. So it's nice to know that there's actually a brand that's going with that minimalist vibe that can actually
Right.
walk the
Yeah.
walk as well instead of just talk the talk. So I want to
Yeah.
know more
We
about that
we had
concept.
yeah. There's been several brands, and I'm sure Alvin can talk about this too. There's been like a increase of brands that are like trying to come out with products that are like one or two ingredients or something like that, and then they all make these outrageous claims with it, like this is the best product in the freaking world, and they and a lot of them aren't. I do personally think that yours performs well. I'm not just saying that because you're on here. Anybody can go back and watch the review that I put out, that's been out, where I offered my thoughts, and I can let everybody know too. Little spoiler alert. Well, actually, it might not be spoiler because the video will probably be out before then. But your air dry paste actually works phenomenally well. I like
If you notice for that one, it is not minimally formulated.
it's
Like
not
it's not four ingredients,
no.
but each of those ingredients are very efficacious. And so, to Steve's point, I think that it's really down to who the consumer is. I was of the camp, and this is how we evolved as a brand. I think that when I started manufacturing the hair clay, um, I was coming from a position of, okay, well, I was using, a drugstore brand, and I was noticing that like more hair strands were coming out. I don't know if that's because of the product or if it's just because I was getting older. I was 24 at the time, 25. So
Let's
I
just
was,
blame the product.
yeah, I
Yeah.
just found it fair to blame the product. And then also, we should get into this, but my background is in cosmetic formulation. So,
Okay.
before I
Oh,
launched
really?
Oxford, yeah, before I launched Oxford, I should probably, can I go back to that part?
Yeah,
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 yeah, if we're gonna dig that up, yeah, tell
yeah.
us
Go
about it.
Yeah.
ahead.
So this is actually where the T starts, and this is kind of where. Graduated from Penn State. After I went to Penn State, I worked for a consulting company called PricewaterhouseCoopers. This was my first job out of college, and my job was to basically help really like wealthy people, billionaires, just I say it's tax consulting basically, right? Like they so that they didn't have to pay more than what they actually needed to. We had some pretty incredible cases that we looked into, people who gambled by taking boats out in outside of the basically into international waters. Like it's incredible. And when I looked at all of the sources of revenue that the biggest clients at any consulting firm for the most part was they all had this position within private companies. Like they were family-owned businesses. They were manufacturing companies. They were people that were creating. They were all creating something. Like the richest people that I knew or that I witnessed at my job that were our clients were people that were creating something from nothing. So I knew that very quickly I would step into entrepreneurship by creating something. And so within 2 years, I came across an older gentleman. He was maybe 74, 75 at the time. He manufactured hair pomades out of his garage in South Philadelphia. His main product was like this onion scented hair pomade. And it was ridiculous. It was literally a glass jar. And inside of it was a petroleum jelly that was melted down. And on the side, there would be like a little like boiler where there's like onions being boiled, and he's taking the juice of the onion, pouring it inside the petroleum jelly, and just adding some vitamin E to it, and then
What?
literally
What?
packaging it in jars and then hand labeling it, and then putting a cap on it. And I'm like, who's buying this? And he said, oh yeah, I actually am a contract manufacturer. I make this for a brand out in Brooklyn. And so I'm like, this is interesting. And I didn't
I
know that
wanna I
people
wanna know who this are. I wanna know their names. Like
offline, sure,
let
offline.
the
Offline, yeah. Off the record.
yeah.
What the?
So he was like making like 200, 300 jars for this brand. And I was like, man, this is an interesting concept. You're making onion scented hair pomade, not for you to sell, but for you to give to someone else who owns the brand and they're selling it. And that's when I understood this concept of contract manufacturing, that there's people out there who make product for other people and then send it back to you and you sell it and you only focus on the selling. So I thought that business model as a 21-year-old was insane. And I basically said, give me 14 of them. How much can I buy this whole company for? And he's like, do you want to buy this company? And I was like, yep. And then he's like, well, how much would you want for it? And I said, well, and I didn't know how to value a company, even though I worked for a really big consulting firm. I was like, well, I have 20 grand in my bank account. And then he's like looking at me like this snake oil salesman guy. He's like, it's actually worth like 35 grand. I was like, don't worry, I'll stay at my job, take the 20,000. I'll keep giving you every paycheck. I live with my parents. So take every paycheck and then, then we'll go into business. And he's like, okay, but I'm still going to own 50% of it. So I effectively paid 35 grand for 50% of a company, valuing it at 70,000. This thing wasn't even worth 5 grand.
Oh
But I didn't
no.
realize that. I didn't realize that until
Is that
much.
all he was doing was just the onion scented pomade? That
That's
was
the
like the
onion
whole
scented
company.
hair pomade. That's all it was.
Oh my
And
gosh.
but in my head, I'm like conflating what I saw at my job with like this is the closest I can get to becoming a titan of industry, and it just happens to be in hair pomades. Fast forward, within a month, everything goes through. I rent out a small insurance office. It is like a 700 square foot ex insurance office. And then I ripped down all the walls, did everything as manual as I could. My brother helped me. I ripped out the carpet, cleaned the whole place up, and I bought a bunch of wax melters, like 2 or 3 wax melters. And I hired 2 people, and I was still at my job, but I basically said, here's the instruction. This older guy is going to be the floor manager for all this. Just keep making onion scented hair pomade. And so I think we got to like 600 jars that it took us like 2 weeks to make. And then I rented out like this big Home Depot truck, and I put all 600 jars inside this truck, and I drove down to Brooklyn to drop this off to the customer. And it could have fit in the back of my Honda, but I wanted to look like an established business. So I drive down to Brooklyn, right on Atlantic Avenue, and I see the owner of the business. I says, my name is Alvin. I am now the owner of your manufacturing, and I just want you to know that any quantity that you need, I'm able to do. And he like is so disinterested. Like, he says, take the jars and just put it on the ground on the sidewalk. And right on where the Barclays Center is. And so I was like, okay, well, this is not professional at all. Like, I mean, it just looked like he literally told me, take all the boxes, put them on the sidewalk. And then I just kind of get a check from him, like maybe like a $700 check for all the product, next to nothing. I spent more in manufacturing it and in getting the rental truck for it. And when I get back in the truck, I see all these random vans come, and they each take a box, like within minutes of me dropping it off. And then I was like, man, okay, I don't know what's happening here. Then on my drive back to Philadelphia, from New York to Philadelphia, 1.5 hour, 2 hour drive, I got a text message from him. Like, he barely spoke English. So he said, all gone, send 10,000 more. And I'm like, 10,000 more?
Jackpot.
I call him. I was like, what's going on? And he starts telling me, hey, I've wanted a manufacturer for this for so long, but the older guy had the formula, and he was older and didn't have the capacity to do this at scale. So I was just giving him as whatever jobs he was able to do. But my quantity for this, people are demanding it. Like, people are waiting on the street to take it back to resell at their own shops. So he was like a retailer of these things, And then I was like, well, don't worry. We've got this. And within the very next purchase order from there, we created a contract manufacturing company called Alpha Organics that was just making all types of hair pomades for this guy. Everything was selling. I think I became a 24-year-old millionaire. Then COVID hit, and almost all business stopped. And then
When was it that you did start the onion pomade company?
2019, I started that.
Okay.
Wow.
And then 2018. Yeah, 2018 I started it, and then in 2020, 2020, that's when COVID hit, and then everything just shut down. He wasn't even being able to sell any product. And so I quickly ran to by this point, we had already, within 1 year, we moved into a 3,000 square foot warehouse. And then I didn't know what to do. So I said, okay, we got to find some product to make and sell. sell. And I ran to my lab, and then I YouTube how to make hand sanitizer. And then it took me 2 weeks, but I figured out how to make a hand sanitizer formula. And then I was the first manufacturer, it felt like, in Pennsylvania. So I was taking this to all these hospitals, distributors, and we were making 100,000 bottles a month of this stuff. And everything just started scaling. Unfortunately, by the middle of COVID, I found out that there was a very elaborate embezzlement scheme happening in the company, which I won't get into the details of, but it was so unique to the point where when I called like the investigators, they were like, "You got to take this to civil. Like this is unethical, but we can't get him for anything." And it just upsetting. I went and got the lawyers involved, and then finally, like, I was like, what's the point of this? Like, I'm so upset, I'm depressed, I don't know the value of any of this anymore. Like let me just shut everything down. It was easier for me to just shut the whole company down than try to fight anything. And so I shut down the whole company, and then within 10 days, I sold off everything. I have not seen my previous partner since then. I don't know where he is even right now. But after everything shut down, I was just kind of like, just in my home for 6 months. I didn't have a job. I didn't do anything. And then my friend had gifted me a hair product that was similar to what I have today. And I remember, like, this is an interesting concept, but in my opinion, they were doing it wrong. Mind you, I was a formulator at what I would say at that age, definitely the highest degree at that age, as the only chemist in a contract manufacturing company that was doing millions of hundreds of thousands of units and millions in revenue. Yeah. So, oh man, like, I see what they're trying to do, but they're off. And I just reformulated a hair clay with what I thought were the missing ingredients and changing up the ratios with what it should have been. And I used it only for myself because, I'm not planning on going back into business after this. And so then I had this jar, which is now Oxford Hill, that my friends would use. And then they would say, "Hey, can I get this? I'm getting married. Can I use this? I like the way that this makes my hair feel." And next thing you know, people started saying, "Why don't you sell this thing?" And I was like, I can try, but I don't really think I'm going to get back into business.
Yeah, you still got those scars that you're dealing with.
Those scars. So the only thing that I did was I had a team of people that were just so, I guess they felt sorry for me. Like, one buddy said, "Let me help design your packaging." Another buddy said, "Let me help make a logo." Another buddy said, "Let me just make your website for you, like something bare bones out of the box. And then you just formulate." And then I was just having fun. And I think like the first month, it was just friends and family that, maybe I sold 200 units and it made me feel good. But I'm like, man, friends and family don't really count because that's not proof of concept. You don't know the motivation. Is it to purchase because they like the product or they're curious, or they just, heard about your fall from grace and
throwing you a bone,
throwing me a bone, right? And so it turns out that they were buying it because they were throwing me a bone. And then, but by the time I sold 200 units, I was like, let me just run some ads for this. Then I started getting like 70, 80 sales from Facebook ads. But those customers were emailing me saying, "I understand the concept and I appreciate the concept, which is why I purchased, but you're not getting it right. Like, this does not do what you say it's going to do." Then I contact like the 200 people that I did know. I'm like, "Yo, did you guys not have the same experience? The stranger customers are like hating this. You guys are saying you love it. What's the truth?" And they're saying, "Alvin, like, yeah, they're right. Like, we didn't want to hurt your feelings."
Oh, no.
I could have made this better. Actually, around that time was when I sent Mike product and Mike, I sent you product. And then I remember hearing the feedback and I'm like, "Stop, don't use the product.
I remember that.
I will send you a new jar. I learned some more information. I know how to fix it. I just wasn't told it." And I went and I reformulated. I sent Mike brand new product.
Yeah. I remember that.
You remember that, right?
Yeah. Wow. It was basically just too hard, like really, really hard, right?
Rock hard. It was rock hard.
Okay.
It's great if you use it within 3 days of brewing it. Right. But if you package it and then you ship it and then like wait 2-3 weeks, it's horrible after that. Thank God we fixed it. But from there, people just started loving the new product, it took about 100 iterations. To get the perfect formula, I remember the formulation, one ingredient was adjusted by 0.15%. Like that's how specific it was for us to get a minimally formulated ingredient that actually like performed how we wanted it to. And then people just started like slanging it to their friends and family, and like they were like just gifting it. And then we got a huge word of mouth business to the point where GQ, we were just bothering them all day long. We're like, hey, you got to try this product. The editors, we got to try this product. I don't want to get too much into the GQ thing, but they basically said, Alvin, we love this product, but like we need like full size jars, and we need like a lot of them to be able to make this part of our program. I was like, I can't.
That's their subscription box program, right?
A subscription box program.
I've heard of that. It was one of our friends' companies. They were wanting them to include it. They were basically wanting like 40,000 units for like nothing. It was like basically send us 40,000 units so we can include it in our subscription box. That was the deal that they
to get exposure.
To get exposure. Yeah.
Big opportunity.
Valuable brand, and I think that there was so much authority that come there. No, there is so much authority that comes from GQ, and I gave samples of our clay, and those samples were given throughout all of their subscription boxes, and that just gave us number one an authority that people were like, okay, like this is a brand that like number one can meet capacity and scale and be able to kind of meet a demand, and they have a product that actually can maintain its stability. You know what I mean? Like unlike what I had initially sent Mike, which I should have known better, having been in manufacturing before this. Right?
It happens, man. It really happens. I mean, Steve and I are actually dealing with a similar issue right now with one of our products where it was working totally fine until a random batch popped up and it was hard as a rock, and we're putting our heads together trying to fix it. So it absolutely happens. I mean, the only thing you can do is, and I think it's exactly what you did do, which is like, yeah, hey, let me send you another one. I'm gonna fix it. I've had some brands that send out just pucks like that are just rock hard, and they're just like, nah, there's nothing wrong. It's good. Don't worry about it.
Like I was so embarrassed. I'm glad that I'm like saying it now. Like I was, because you are the first creator I've ever worked with. Oh, okay. And also, in my opinion, you are the most effective like creator because number one, I didn't want to work with someone that was just going to like gas us up like our initial customers did. Yeah. And then it'd be a bad product. Like I wanted someone that was going to say the truth. And I remember like, Mike reached out to me and said like, listen, I just want you to know that, my audience comes first, and I'm not going to like sugarcoat what I think is going to be the truth here. So, and then I was nervous about that because like, man, is he going to like entirely trash the product? And it was such a balanced approach where it's like, hey, here's the things that are great about it, but here are the things that you need to be aware of because it might not be for you. And honestly, I love that because it gave people a confidence. Let me see for myself, that mentality. Let me try this for myself. But I was so embarrassed to have to come back to you and say,
no,
hey, man.
It's fine. It happens. It happens more than you know. And it even happens to us. It happens to me. I mean, we've had to send out, sometimes you just got to do it. Sometimes you just got to, something that's it's part about being in business. But I mean, I appreciate brands like yourself. I reached out to you, which is a rare thing for me to do because these days I get about, like I said, 10, 15 brands a week reaching out to me, and I just don't have time. I actually got a comment from a subscriber that was very adamant, like, hey, you should check out Oxford Hill. And I just saw it, and everything just kind of lined up for me where I was like, I'll look into them. And I loved your branding. I loved the site and things, just kind of spoke to me a little bit. And I was like, let's take a shot. Let's see what they say. And so that's how I got connected with you guys. But yeah, how you guys handled it was perfectly. I mean, it happens. So it happens so often, and so many brands are just like, yeah, whatever, deal with it. And
it says something. It says something to surrounding yourself with real, genuine people that are going to give you proper feedback instead of surrounding yourself with a bunch of yes men and friends and family. Like you said, Alvin, friends and family, they don't want you to feel bad, especially if I mean, essentially you've already been kind of kicked down, and they were already, like you said, they were just trying to throw you a bone. Um, and yeah, they don't want you to feel bad. They want you to just feel good about your stuff.
Right.
But I've definitely find that the people that are willing, like Mike, it's good to have somebody on your side or people on your side that are like, let me help you make this as good as it possibly can be so you can be as successful as you possibly. And I'm sure your friends and family wanted that obviously as well, but you
Yeah, for sure.
just
They
a little too close to it.
There,
And
and
it's,
there's
Well,
a
yeah.
there's a two
yeah.
part reason as to why I approach reviews the way I do, and a lot of it's not because I'm some like super honest person. I consider myself an honest person, but that's not the reason why I approach the reviews the way that I do. To be quite honest with you, it's a multifaceted thing. For one thing, it's to offer feedback, genuine feedback to brands, because if something's wrong with my product, I would want someone to tell me, just like you outlined. I would want someone to tell me. So there's that. But two, the audience won't trust. If I get up right here in this seat and I go, "This is the best product I've ever seen," nobody's gonna trust that.
Yeah.
Nobody, absolutely
Especially
nobody.
when they get it in their hands, and it's not going to work for everybody, and it never works for everybody.
Right. And
You just have to be prepared.
man, I've had so many brands that are like, why can't you just say this is going to work for everybody? Why? And I'm like, because I know it's not. I know my product that I personally invested my blood, sweat, and tears into is not going to work for everybody. So I don't even say that about my own stuff.
Well, if we did make a product that was going to work for everybody, why would we make multiple different iterations? Like
Yeah.
like Alvin, you just came out with your what's it called, the air dry paste
Yeah, the air dry cream.
or
And
air dry? Yeah. Why would you make all the different iterations if it was all going to work for every
exactly,
person?
100%. If there's a one size fits all type product or someone's claiming it, run
Mhm.
for the hills. Like
Oh
it's
yeah.
impossible. It's so impossible. And it's, you can't be all things for all people, but you got to choose like from your conviction, what is something that you think is important? Like we are now all that's basically what it is. Like what I personally use and what I am obsessed with. I have not used a single other product other than my hair clay for the last like whatever from the moment I created. I've not even experimented with another one, except if it's to see, oh, someone claims XYZ. Let me see if that's real. And so at the end of the day, like as founders, we should have so much conviction in our product that, you know what? There's the admin side, there's the business side, there's the customer acquisition side of things. But as you said, I love how you described it, the juice, right? Like
Mhm. Yep.
juice in the jar. Like I love that so much. Like you've got to be able to stand by that.
Yeah.
And then it doesn't matter if somebody's saying something positive or negative. You will know that there is at least a few people that are like you out there that would have the same experience, positive experience with it. And
Yeah.
that's kind of all that matters. The people, Mike, that I would say that are like, why can't you just say all nice things about it? They don't have conviction in their product.
No.
They really
No,
don't.
and
Yeah.
I've been fired from contracts for refusing to say it. Like it's has some. It doesn't happen very often, thankfully. Like maybe I can tell you a handful of times it's actually happened, but thankfully,
Yeah.
I mean I've had it happen where they're very upset if I don't say this is the best thing I've ever seen, and every time I'm like, who's believing that? Who is
Yeah.
believing that? Like no, and a lot of times there's only maybe like one brand that's still around that has done that with me where they've been really upset. The rest of them have gone under completely.
But
And
that's not a review for your product. That's just an advertisement. That's just propaganda on behalf of
yeah,
whatever brand that is. And people in today's day and age, people can smell that. They can smell that from a mile away. So if you're being genuine, you're treating your viewers properly. And I mean, honestly, the brands that are telling you to just say it's perfect and don't even bother with anything else, like they're doing a disservice to it. Like Alvin said, they don't believe in their brand. They just want you to generate a bunch of sales for them, which, obviously that is the point of sending them to people to review. But I think there's a whole lot more. I've always said that Mike was one of our best partners when we were releasing new products before, because he was so honest that his customers would, he may not have had a million followers, may not have the biggest following on the planet, but we've sent product to people that have hundreds of thousands or millions of followers before, and their content is just not as
Yes.
genuine. Yeah, the amount of customer acquisition that you receive off of whatever video that you're doing, as a percentage, Mike's customers or Mike's viewers were always a lot more active, you know, that it
100%. I think every
yes.
customer that came from Mike's review, they're still with us. They're 100% still with us, and they already bought our products that came after. To something that Steve had mentioned earlier, there's two, I guess, the ethos of our brand. My personal conviction comes from two areas. Number one, like, I'm a man of faith. There's this place in scripture where it says that those who humble themselves will be exalted, those who exalt themselves will be laid low. In other words, it's basically saying like the way up is down. So like if you want to like inherit the earth and do well in your career, in your business, you need to like humble yourself. You need to like lower yourself. You need to not think that you've got it all figured out. That's why like we take customer feedback so seriously. When we mess up, we own up to it.
Yeah.
And people respond so well to that, I've learned. And we don't do that for show. If we can live in our own echo chambers and think that all that we've created is gold, or we can literally ask people, how bad did it suck? And if we fix this, would you try it again? And it always leads to our own elevation. Our brand elevates myself as a founder, and like the doors that have opened up to me and the relationships I have now. Like they're so much more purposeful now because people see me as like, oh, he's teachable. Like he's able to be corrected. Now, there's some people that will take advantage of that, but it's not as often as you think. And the second thing that I've noticed is you cannot wait for something to be perfect in order to start. Like just launch it. Just launch it. And you might never get those early customers back. Actually, like when I remember like we had lost so many customers because of like all of our early product not being up to par after a week from the day of its first brewing. And I didn't realize that. And I remember like sending out a mass email saying, listen, here's this Modern Man review. It's very honest. It talks about the good and the bad, but it's highlighting the new formula, and we fixed all of the issues. And when we sent out this email to every single customer, all of the ones that like had left us came back. Why? Because they were listened to, they were heard. They like communicated that something went wrong, and the founders of a brand iterated and did something about it. So don't wait for something to be perfect. Like you will get a lot of backlash, and that's okay. Like you just got to have thick skin. But if you wait for something to be perfect, it's going to be an issue. Like even with the air dry styling cream, to be very transparent, we didn't realize like the aluminum packaging is beautiful. I love it. But like when it flies over the country, well, there's air pressure that builds up within it. And so when air pressure builds up within it, when people are opening it, like it just comes out and it just keeps coming out. And so we didn't know that until we shipped out the product. And so Mike probably already experienced that. So we literally contacted the aluminum manufacturer. This looks beautiful, but we got to fix the air pressure issue. And we got to make this work. And so now like we were able to correct that. We were able to fix that. But customers are still like, they're not saying, oh my gosh, like this brand like keeps getting it wrong. Like they're like, oh, this brand is going to listen to us when we communicate that something does go wrong. Yeah. So don't wait for anything to be perfect. Launch it and just make sure you don't make the same mistake twice. That's the only thing that I'm very, very adamant about.
Just learn from your customers, learn from your mistakes. And like you said, humble yourself a little bit, and, you know, take the knocks on the chin when you got to, and make the adjustments, and people will see you're a genuine person that actually cares about the customers. Not that you're just saying, I'm not going to waste my time and energy and effort fixing that for you because I need to figure out how to do, you know, make my next product so that I can make another $1 million.
100%.
No, that's the beauty of working with, you know, smaller handcrafted kind of companies. And, you know, when you start your business out of your basement, and, you know, start from like literally below the ground, you know, you're starting at this super, you know, grounded level. You recognize that you're human, and every human is, no one's perfect.
Yeah.
It's a really great,
recognizing that is big.
It's a really great point to end on. I think we're coming up on time, but we've got a little tradition here on the show, Alvin, of giving the viewers a taste of something to come. Dropping a little breadcrumbs is something that might be coming down the pipeline with you guys. Do you want to partake?
Yeah, I will.
He's got something, Steve.
Where's he going? Where's he going?
Uh-oh. We did it.
All right. Now I'm excited.
We got something coming. What is
All
it?
right, we got something really beautiful. This is not the final packaging.
Okay.
This is a working formula. What I will show everyone is we are launching the I will tell you, and I'm not boasting. I'm not well, I am kind of boasting, but
It's okay.
I'm not
Boast away.
I'm not it's a deodorant that we're launching, and
Cool.
it's actually one that is, in my opinion, the most effective natural deodorant that is on the market
Aluminum
because
free,
of a very, I'm sorry,
aluminum free and all that.
aluminum free. And
Nice.
the reason why it's effective, I can say this because we're launching it in a month. The reason why it's so effective is, I don't know, it's because there's beef tallow in it. It's a beef tallow based deodorant.
What?
And
Interesting.
That is
Okay.
very interesting. Oh,
What does
wow.
the beef tallow? What does the beef tallow do for deodorant?
I don't know the chemistry behind why it works so well. I understand it from like when it comes to the amino acids that are within it. It acts as like this antioxidant on its own, but why it masks odor so well, why it retains sweat in the body better, and why it avoids the purge when people switch from an antiperspirant to this. I don't yet understand. But you know, I've been working on this for the better part of 2 years on my board. I have all these formulas, and the moment I started formulating with the beef tallow or grass-fed beef tallow, it's like it turned the product into a completely different category of aluminum
Whoa. That's
deodorant. So
crazy.
uh,
Interesting.
I was not
everything is great.
expecting that. I'll tell you that.
Not at
Yeah.
all, man. Not at
Hey,
all.
how do I buy one? Because I'm always struggling
You
with
know, my
This is
deodorants,
going to be
man.
live on our website. By packaging is just finishing up now. Formula is all we're good to go. Stability passed. pH everything passed. Fragrance is all set. It's a eucalyptus and mint.
mm,
So
Oh,
not
all right.
synthetic, like eucalyptus and mint.
my wife
It'll
recently got me to switch to aluminum free. I was typically just a guy like I don't care. I don't
Go get some
what
Old Spice
yeah,
and
what do you mean? Like there's aluminum in my deodorant? I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
She's like, you got to
I'm
switch.
allergic to just about anything in my armpits. I get that, hamburger armpits whenever I use like Old Spice or anything that's blue or whatever.
So I'll tell you, we tested this on, we don't test on animals, but we test on people. And by that, I mean, like I have my good friends, one of my friends, she has contact dermatitis on her arm when she uses natural deodorant. The moment she puts natural deodorant on, just starts breaking out. So she has to use like more chemical based ones. I don't know how that makes sense,
It's kind of
but
the opposite of what
could
I
be, right?
figured.
So for 10 years, she has never used a natural deodorant. This is the first one she's ever used where there hasn't been any sign of it
Whoa.
whatsoever.
Well, there's
Wow.
a case study. You got to scream from the rooftop. I love
Oh
that.
yeah, yeah. We're
Yeah.
actually building up our website for that. So that will be
Cool.
live on our website the end of January, latest early February. I don't see how to
Yeah,
spill
let's
past
put a
that.
video together for that. That might be
Oh yeah, for
I
sure.
don't
I
know
didn't
if
know if you
I've
were in that lane.
I don't know if I think I've reviewed. You know what? I'm pretty sure I've covered one in the past because I remember I want somebody maybe Sheer. I know Sheer made one, so
Sure, Bible.
yeah. So
Yeah.
I'm wondering if I covered there. It was like a add-on thing though. They were like, "Hey, review this hair product, but also could you mention our deodorant type thing?" I'm pretty sure that's how it was. But either way, I'm definitely gonna pick one up because I think that's such an interesting concept. Like that's just a mind-blowing type concept. So that's very very cool. But all right, we are running up on time though, so I want to thank Alvin for coming on the show. Thank you so much. We had a fantastic. The time absolutely just flew by. I have no idea where it went. We were having so much fun. So thank you once again for coming on.
Thanks so much. Sorry, I have a PhD in yapology.
Yeah. Well,
Hey, Alvin, something we like to end with too is just give us a shout out on all the different social medias and website. Let us know where everyone can find you.
Absolutely. Well, you can find us on Instagram at the Oxford Hill, on TikTok at Oxford Hill Co. And yeah, those are the two places where we spend the most amount of time. And thanks so much for giving
And the
us.
website?
Oh, our website, sorry, is www.oxfordhill.co. So oxfordhill.co.
Awesome.
Beautiful.
That's all we got for today. If you want to see more from our guest, you can find them at the places they just mentioned there. Both will also be linked in the description of today's episode. You can find more from me weekly as well on the channel Modern Man TV on YouTube. And from my counterpart there, you can find him at Lockhart's Pomade on Instagram and Lockhart'sAuthentic.com as well. Thanks so much for joining us today. Take it easy. We'll see you next time.